Hi, friend. Kimberly Bowden here, and I wanted to share with you two things that I have recently learned. This morning in prayer time, I was thinking about, let me back up. We had Bible study last night, and I keep telling people when I found God. That's what I keep saying. And in my prayer time reflection this morning, I was thinking about, did I find God or did God find me? Right? And so I sat in prayer and I was talking to God and I'm like, look, did you find me or did I find you? And the coolest thing is God is always seeking us. Like God is always there, always present, always seeking us. It is us that gets in the way of the beauty that God provides. God has always been there. When I reflect back on all my trauma, all my experiences in life, God has always been in it. He's always been there. But I never had that belief. So I never really saw it. I never really knew that He was there until I stepped into my belief. So the answer is I found God because God is always seeking you. God is always present. God is always there. It is us that needs to seek God because He's always chasing after us. And we just need to fully step into that belief that He is there and He's never left us. He's never forsaked us. So I thought that was really, really cool awakening that I had this morning, the reflection time that I was like, I found Him because He's always been chasing after me. I just didn't know. I was too busy, right? We're always saying we're too busy, and we're too busy hearing God. We're too busy wanting to change. We're too busy wanting to be convicted. And, when you ask someone, how are you doing? You hear all the time, oh, I'm busy. We're doing this and we're doing that and we're busy, we're busy, we're busy. One time I was on a phone call with a friend from high school and, I remember her telling me, I was venting to her about all my struggles and all the things that we were going through and all the hard things, right? And she stopped me in my tracks and she said, Kim, you know what I hear? And I said, what? And she said, your world is too loud. And I'm like, wow, like, you're right. I am too busy complaining about life, complaining about all the things that I am not even hearing God. Like, I don't even have time mentally to stop and think about anything else other than the things that I'm going through, right? Like I'm not seeing the beauty that God is, what He's doing in the crazy, what He's doing in the chaos, because my mind is too busy. Even if you're not physically busy, you're mentally busy. And I truly believe that if you say you're busy, you're mentally busy is what that means. It means that you are not allowing yourself time to just be still and present and listen and hear God and see God working all around you because He's always doing that. It is us, it is the society that we live in that teaches us that if you're not busy, you're not productive. If you're not constantly doing something, you're lazy. And it's just like, like it makes my head explode because I'm like, oh my gosh, like God did not intend us to constantly be doing things, especially to the point of not seeing the goodness of the things that He provides because we're so caught up in our drama, and it took that special friend to tell me, hey, you need to stop because what's going on is you're so busy in your craziness that you're not even allowing yourself time to hear anything that God has for you. So I thought that was a very, very cool, very fun awakening experience for me. The second one is we have been in couples therapy. We've also been doing therapy separately. And we are really enjoying it. It is all Christian counseling. So one of the things I really wanted to share, because it just was another huge awakening experience for me, is, we were struggling in our marriage to find time for each other. When you are, and for me, for our life, my husband is working a lot. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and we have 3 children, and I'm running them here, there, and everywhere. And he's working all the time. And when he comes home, it's like we're both too exhausted for each other. And our society teaches that as a stay-at-home mom, or mom in general, however you fit into this, you figure that out. But for me, it is, I am so overextending myself for my children that I am not allowing time to, I don't have enough time for my husband because I'm so exhausted at the end of the day running around with the children, doing the house chores, doing the laundry, the dish, all the things that come with being a stay-at-home mom. I've done both. I've worked full time and I've stayed at home. And I can tell you, staying at home is a lot harder mentally than it was when I was at work. And they're both very hard. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. They're both extremely hard, but staying at home and trying to juggle all the emotions of everybody and everything it's mentally a lot more challenging for me. So I am constantly overextending myself for our children, and I'm not allowing space and time for my husband in a way that he feels loved and wanted. And so, we were talking about this with a therapist, and she had pointed out that biblically speaking, the way that God created it and intended it to be is that we are to have our relationship with God first and foremost. After we have, after we have fulfilled that, we are to pursue our spouse and then our children. And my mind was just like, wow, that is what I'm doing wrong, right? I'm completely guilty of overextending myself for my children and not, at the end of the day, not having enough energy for my spouse. And when I took a step back and thought about that, I thought about even just how that is a society norm of like, we feel like we need to be hustling for our kids. And if we're not good moms, right? And in doing that, we don't have time for our spouse. And so it's a very difficult reality, right? I was like, oh, dang, like I need to change that. That needs to be fixed. And in doing that and stepping into that and really trying that on, I'm like, I have now been able to mentally prepare myself for what that looks like on a daily basis. I can still show up for my kids. Absolutely. I can still show up for my kids. But I need to be making sure that I'm not exhausting myself to the point where when my husband gets home, like he doesn't get anything of me because I'm so exhausted. And that has really, truly changed a lot in our household. And when you think about it too, it's like we're raising our children to set the example for them. And if we're setting the example that mom is doing everything for them and not being available or have the energy to do things for her husband, then what they're learning is that when they grow up and they're in their own marriages and their own relationships, they're going to take that with them. They're going to think that the mom is supposed to be doing all these things and overextending herself, and then husband just kind of gets put on the back burner. And we don't want that either. We don't want our kids learning that that's right, because it's not. But it was just, it's such a crazy awakening for me, because that is not the way that our society is. You see moms completely overextending themselves for their children all the time. I see marriages of friends that are destroyed. They're ruined. There's divorces going on. There's all these things happening because we're not doing it the way God intended it to be. We're doing it the way that society's doing it. We're doing it the way we think it's supposed to be. And it's not that way at all. And so I want to share this vulnerability with you because I want you to hopefully listen and be convicted yourself some way, to hear what I'm saying, that for me, for so long, not knowing Christ, I leaned on my own understanding, and my own understanding was a lot of just the way that society is. That's how I was molded and conformed into believing these things that are not true and that are not good. And then I wonder why all my relationships were failing. All my relationships were falling apart because I was doing it the way society, the way that I thought it was right. And it's not right at all. We are not supposed to be putting our children first. And I'm not saying you can't be there for your children any less than you ever have been. But your spouse needs to be coming first. And in a marriage, it works both ways. If I'm putting God first and my husband's not, that's not going to work, right? If I'm putting my children first and he's putting me first, that's not going to work, right? So it is learning the way that God intended it to be, which is God, spouse, children. And it's just blowing my mind. It's blowing my mind. It's changing our life. It's changing our marriage. It's changing my relationship with my kids. When I am there and able to be present with my kids and my husband's not here, I am there and present and available for my kids so that they make sure that this is their time. And then when my spouse gets home, I want to have time to listen to him. I want to have time for him to decompress. I want to have time to, really hear how his day was and not really not care because I'm tired and I don't want to hear how hard his day was because my day was harder. It doesn't work clearly and obviously because we've tried that on. So I love that the Bible is constantly convicting me. I went home after that therapy session and I believe me, I went to scripture and I made sure that that was the way God intended it to be. And it absolutely says in scripture that that's how our relationships are supposed to go. And in doing that, life has just been amazing. I have mentally been able to prepare myself each and every day to make sure that I am putting God first, and then that I am showing up for my spouse, that I'm making sure that all his wants and needs are taken care of. And then I am, being present and available for my children. It doesn't have to be all or nothing on any relationship. It's just finding the balance between all the things that really set your soul on fire, all the things that make you happy. I don't want my husband to be unhappy, because if my husband's unhappy, then I'm unhappy. If my kids are unhappy, then I'm unhappy. And so it's a balance, but learning what scripture says, the way that God intended it to be, has been an amazing, amazing experience. And I just wanted to share that with you. I hope it resonated with you today. Sissy's waking up, so I need to go, but I will talk to you soon. Have a blessed, blessed day.